They become so engaged, they become so involved in community issues. They invite you for public meetings. They invite you for various activities during their campaign. When there is no election, they are nowhere to be seen. Or they would make certain promises. We are going to do this. We know in your community you don't have lights. You know the water is bad. You know they would really identify the issues. But in terms of working towards addressing those issues, it was lacking. And then they would come after a certain period again. They lie again. You know, so we realized, oh, there's a game here. I think we really need to take our leadership to task, because once we put them in power, they are supposed to work for the people.
Emma believes that through the election monitoring process, 2005 managed to escape the notorious 2002 Zimbabwe election rout, stained with the blood of those who opposed the ruling party.
As an organization, we've got 20,000 observers who are on the ground, community-based people whom we trained, and they are supposed to be observing what is really taking place. We then started also creating educational plays and discussions on how we could always link with the people whom we vote in power.
Finding the keys to get access to people restrained by government and military power is an exceptional challenge, especially when historically the doors have been shut and deadbolted to women in particular.
At first it was really total closure. It was like, who are you? Who are you? Are you a revolutionary front? Do you have an army? So that's the mindset. Like, you have to take up arms, you have to fight violently, kill each other first before you will have the right or the passport to the negotiating table.
Attorney Marianne Arnaudo's mission as a peacemaker in Mindanao is to promote the role and participation of women in the peace process between the government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, MILF. In that capacity, Marianne organized the successful Bante ceasefire monitoring team that worked directly in zones of conflict to educate warring factions on international humanitarian law and human rights.
I'm involved in the ceasefire monitoring work. And this is a quick response mechanism that look into the violations of the ceasefire and also looking into the conditions of the civilians who are caught in the armed conflict. These things really make me move. It also reflects back on me as a woman, as a mother, as a Mindanaoan, as a human being. There was also another instance when this was during the Bulyok War. I received a call from one of our contacts in the field, Father Bert, that the evacuees were being forcefully returned back to their communities, even if there is no ceasefire yet. So when I heard about this report, I immediately took a ride to Piquet, and we wanted to intervene and help. But when we were there, the evacuees had already gone. We followed them to the interior. We wanted to follow up their situation. And so we went there the whole afternoon. We were walking until we arrived at this community. And there was a dead baby there lying. When I arrived and I saw the baby, and I was crying. I could not stop myself. I was crying uncontrollably. And while I was there, I was doing that, I noticed that the women around me were not crying anymore. They were just watching me. When I embraced the mother, she could not cry anymore. And so these things, this pain that women experience, most of the children in the evacuation centers are weak, very vulnerable. They're the first one that gets sick because of just the congestion of people. They live in tents and there's little supply, very poor sanitation. Sometimes when it rains, it just gets flooded. So the mosquitoes, the diarrhea, all these epidemics are coming. And so most of the ones who are dying in the evacuation center are the children.
Oftentimes in armed conflict, the body count that is attributed to bullets is far fewer than the number of deaths caused by malnutrition and preventable diseases and sickness when people are forced out of their homes with no protection, shelter, or resources for medical treatment.
In February 2003, there was another war which displaced about 200,000 people. And from the day one of the bombing up to June, we had a very intense campaign for ceasefire. The women in the evacuation camps started consultation, meeting, they had focus group discussion, they were planning what to do. Maybe we can just stand along the highway and with our placards asking people to go home. We want to go home, give us ceasefire, and we want our children to go back to school already. We started in the morning. I was very surprised because when the women came out of their evacuation of the camps, they were very nice dressed. They're really prepared for the activity. There were 10,000 people who were standing with a simple request for a ceasefire. The evacuate power was like July 24 for 3 days, and June 24, 25, and 26, and then I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks after, the MILF declared a unilateral ceasefire, and then after that, the government later on reciprocated.
The women's demonstration contributed greatly to the clinching of the ceasefire negotiation that Marianne had been trying to leverage with the civilian women. Although the laborious volleys to successfully pass information and secure agreements between the MILF and government military powers has not yet resolved the historic conflict of ancestral domain and rights of self-governance, they have moved the peace building in the community forward and provided a road for the internally displaced to return home.
Women, often the first to know and last to carry the burdens of war, are forging pathways to peace with justice around the world.
A little bit hard to watch, but it's also what we have to know, because that's where some people have to start from to build this culture of peace. I just want to bring you up to date on the women in the film. Sister Pauline is still active in northern Uganda, working with children coming in from the bush. The night commuters have mostly gone home. Doesn't mean there's peace in the north, but there's more than there has been in the past. Peace talks with Joseph Cohn, head of the Lord's Resistance Army, flounder, but this week, actually, he said he wants to return to the talks he failed to show up with in the past few months.